Thank you for joining us for our second edition of Fireplace Chats. We have amazing potter with us today by the name of Leena Muley. Thank you, Leena.
Hi, nice
Hi.
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Can you tell us a little bit about the products that you've brought?
Sure, so I like to describe myself as a functional potter. So each of my pieces has been made with a purpose in mind. One of my favorite things to do is make cheese boards, and this is one example here. And mugs are another favorite to do, which I have two size examples of. I also have some planters and vases, incense holders, and ashtrays available.
Beautiful. We love these wares. So, where are you from?
I'm from London originally, and I've been living in New York for about 8 years now. But I have a pretty mixed background and upbringing of my mother being Chinese from Malaysia and my father being Indian from Kenya.
Oh.
So that multicultural childhood has definitely influenced what I have picked up on for my inspirations in the design process.
Oh, that's great. Can you point to any specific cultural backgrounds that appear in these works?
For sure. So not really for anything to do with the forms because they are functional pieces. So that I keep very true to being the function that they need to be. But for me, the biggest inspiration has always been color. As a child, I would play with my grandmother's saris all the time, and it would be like these bursts of colorful rainbows coming out of the closet. And so I've always been really interested about how colors can be combined to create a story for itself. So a lot of my pieces like to color block different colors together. In particular this season, it's very earth toned, which is staying true to the fact that clay is the earth. And so I like to pair back my use of color with the purpose of the piece and honor what the materials are.
Yeah, these are fabulous. They seem at once classic, maybe because of this earthy color scheme, but they also provide a newness to functional pottery that we really admire.
Thank you.
So, right here in January, at the beginning of 2021, we've all faced so many tribulations, and I'd like to take a moment to just have a moment of silence for those who have really faced struggles during COVID. We'd like to ask you a few COVID-related questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So, as an artist, how has the pandemic affected your process, your ability to create work?
So, from when the shutdown began in March, it meant that the shared studio that I go to had to close. So there was a long period where I wasn't able to create for a while. And that was a strange experience because I have a full-time job and I do this trying to start a business on the side. So I was go for many months on end to try and start a business from the ground. And it was kind of, for a moment, like a moment of panic because I was like, big goals of what I wanted to do for the year, and then that had to come to a screeching halt. But it also gave me a moment to reflect and to recenter. And that also helped me have a moment to think about how to push my presence online. So I was able to set up my website and officially start my e-commerce. So that was a good breather for me to establish an actual presence. And I really appreciated how during COVID people wanted to support local small businesses. And thank you to everyone that was there for me during that moment and decided to buy pieces when I started in the middle of a pandemic, a business. And it's been exciting to see that just small nods of appreciation of a handmade piece can actually go quite a long way.
So, could you tell me a little more about your creative process with this line?
Yeah, definitely. So what I really enjoy about ceramics is that it's a slow, meditative process. You have to think about what you want each piece to be before you start, especially on the wheel, where you need to be, every single movement you make from just centering the clay to opening it to then pulling the wall up to create the form, you need to have an idea in mind ahead of time, and then achieving it is the next challenge. It requires a lot of time to like get into the practice, and it feels kind of meditative in that, and also like a dance, like you're in partnership with the clay to create what your mind wants it to become. So when it comes to making ceramics, you do it by kiln mode. I'm a small batch ceramicist, so each collection is per kiln firing. And it can take about 2 months maybe for me to have enough pieces gathered together to be able to fire something. Each piece has a different length of time it takes for me to make it. Some can be a few days and others can be several weeks. So when it comes to making ceramics, there's several stages in it. The first stage is to throw using the wet clay. And then you need to let it dry, and it gets to a stage called leather hard. And that's when you can turn it upside down and give it some of the details, like trimming a foot in, leaving a maker's mark, and then attaching the handle. Then at that point, you leave it to dry till it becomes bone dry. And it can be fired for the first time in what's called a bisque kiln. That's when you fire it to a point that's basically half cooked, and you can make it then safe to add the glaze to it, which is the color that you see here. I like to glaze my pieces so that you still see the natural stoneware and the earth it has come from. So in the half moon mugs, they have that name because they're glazed on the diagonal, like a half moon. And you can see that it's got this finish to it that is a contrast to the base. In the glazing process, you can dip, pour, or paint it. Then you leave it to dry once more and fire it for the last time in a glaze kiln. This
that
one,
was really nice.
thank you. This one has a different way of like glazing for it. It's really difficult to kind of meet each color without it bleeding into one another. This one was purposefully overlapped so that you can see the reaction of the two glazes with each other, because it doesn't work like regular color theory. It's chemicals. It's like a chemistry experiment. So whatever chemicals are in each colorway will not necessarily create gray when you mix white and black together.
On this one, I can see it's not only changed the color, but almost what looks to me like the pattern. The way that these compounds have, I guess, broken down. Really fantastic. If you could zoom in on that. These beautiful colorways.
It's kind of like galactical.
Oh, and you even still left a panel kind of exposed.
Yeah.
How come this has gotten a bit darker than here? Oh, because it doesn't have the glaze. So
Yeah,
it
exactly.
got like
That's
cooked.
just the natural clay underneath.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and every single one of pieces, I like to leave a section that is what it is raw.
Oh, even that one.
Yeah, so that's where like I'd like it to be used as where you would hold it.
Oh, like a serving.
Yeah, it's kind of like its handle in a very clean.
That's beautiful. I've always admired the process of making pottery. I haven't had too much experience except for summer camp as a kid, but I always watch videos of you and other people making the pottery, and I feel almost jealous of that kind of serenity that it seems to convey.
Yeah, it's definitely a very calm process, and it forces you as a creative who wants to churn out ideas, because there's always constant ideas in anyone that has a creative vision's mind. But pottery makes you have to slow that down. I come from the fashion industry and have been designing in a very fast-paced environment for many years now. So this is something that I really appreciate because it's a change of pace. You end up needing to let the clay tell you when it wants to be worked on. Every single step of the process requires the clay to be in a different stage of dryness. So it very much dictates your schedule. It takes up a lot of time because of that. but it also makes you think about putting something else before yourself. So each of my pieces kind of has its own personality because of that.
That's beautiful. I'd like to ask you a question that we've been asking everybody, just because we're opening January 2021, and we really owe our opportunity to the market downfall because of COVID. We have a lot of great hopes for the way that we might be able to see things change. Do you have any ideas of what you'd like to see in the shopping experience for 2021?
You know, for me, it's been really beneficial to have everyone turn to online shopping. It has made my small business accessible to people in a way that they wouldn't have thought to look at me before. But what I think is really special about the few markets I've been able to do is face-to-face contact with the customer. And since everything that I make has a personal touch to it, it's nice to know whose home it's going to and why they decide that's something that they want to own. What I love about ceramics is that there's a permanence to their being. So hopefully these are pieces that people will enjoy in their home for the rest of their time of having it. And it will last for a lifetime and beyond. So it would be nice in the shopping experience for there to be a personal touch. And I look forward to us being able to have that again.
That's great. Yeah. Hopefully, for those customers of ours that come in, when you come in here and see the beautiful works of Leena Muley, you can tell me and our coworkers what you think, and we'll convey that back to her so that she can, have all that good feedback from her customer base on her art and her pottery.